All right. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. So we got 9, 14, 15.
Somebody speak on Zoom land. Alex, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. I can hear you too.
Okay.
So there's more. All right. So good morning. Today we're gonna talk about Happy President's Day, by the way. Care about that today. Today we're gonna talk about the process and the life that takes on when you start and finish a real estate residential mortgage loan. As it pertains to your transaction. So there's two versions of this session. One is designed for guys like me that get very technical and very, very definitive on the terms. And there's one, that's this one, designed for you folks, but it talks about how it specifically relates to your process and specifically relates to your RPA, your residential purchase agreement. Feel free to stop me at any time for questions. Go ahead. Very, very informal. Yeah, and it's probably should take no more 30 to 45 minutes roughly with questions, I would imagine. Okay, let's get started. So first of all, as you embark, whether you're new, experienced, seasoned agent, you're gonna find that from the beginning all the way down to your career as a real estate agent, you're gonna have partners. Escrow, title, lender are the top three. You'll have more, your property inspectors, maybe an appraiser here and there. So hard money lenders, all kinds of stuff that might be part of your team. But they tell you here in your PC coaching that the top three, you should have that ingrained from day one of your career as a real estate agent. Title, escrow, and a lender. And then and you would hope that when you engage or select those partners, that they know their business by heart. Number one, that's a minimum expectation. Number two, that they have some knowledge, if not a great working knowledge, which would be desired of your business. Because your job primarily is to lead generation, and finding clients. And right beside that, you're the feeder. You're feeding everybody else. So your job is to go out and get business, so that therefore you must rely on your partners to handle those things that matters once you open your transaction, open escrow. You want to be able to handle your rely on your escrow so that once you open that escrow, she can take it from there. With some questions and some forms for you to sign and your clients, but for the most part, can take that transaction all the way through and mitigate any problems that come up. Same thing with title. Title is pretty much a non-issue, right? Because when you order it, provided there's a clear title, then you never see them again until they're ready to bring you a closing gift. Oops, that's illegal. Or anything like that. But then the lender, the guy that has the most, how do I say, the most burden in a sense, because if the lender cannot get the loan, all the rest of this doesn't matter. All that work that you had done to farm, lead gen, get the client commitment, open escrow, just goes down the tube. So you want to have a lender that has a good mastery of that business. But for you, which we'll talk about in a minute, there's another good value add on why you are here today. So let me start with a definition, first of all. Who can tell me what they think collaboration means? Or what does it mean to them? Anyone? Nothing crazy, just whatever you think. Huh?
Working together.
Yeah, very good. And hopefully, this is the part that I hate. I need that thing. Because this is the part that freezes up every time you have somebody from experience. There you go. The best partnerships aren't dependent on a mere common goal, but on a shared path. Remember I talked about you guys have interdependency to each other, equality, desire, in no small amount of passion. Work in practice, whereby individuals work together, as you said, for a common purpose of closing that transaction. And the part in here that I do not see, which I'm adding today, that the client has the best experience with you and all your partners and affiliates. It only takes one affiliate to piss off a client and say, well, she was nice, but that escrow company really, really agitated me. I'm never coming back. So it has to be a total collaboration. Closing, number one, and second, a shared excellent client experience. Make sense?
Yes.
So let's get down to the nitty gritty. Why should you learn more about the process of a mortgage loan? Well, here we go. We talked about earlier, why are we here? There's some value adds today. Oops, let me read this. Yeah. So one, so you can get a working knowledge of what the process looks like. So when your clients will call you and ask you, where are we? And then you call them, you call me and say, Jojo, where are we? And I say, we're in the opening process. You'll know what that means after the day. And not only that, so that you can explain it nicely and clearly to your clients. And by the way, today is not to get you a mastery of this information. It's just to get you to understand and get a comfort so you can put it in your own words when you're talking to the client. Because no matter how I try to tell the clients to direct all their questions to me, so that I can answer them on this process, guess what? They always go to whom? You guys. Because why? Because you have built the initial fiduciary trust with them in earning them as a client and getting them to commit. And once, kind of like when you get a puppy, right from the very get-go, if you build that trust from there, it doesn't go away, does it? It just follows you all the way till the end of the days of your puppy, God forbid. That's kind of. So get a working knowledge to further inform your clients. Number two, second most important. Should I have more coffee today? Understand the timelines, because that is the key, isn't it? You've got inspection deadlines, you've got appraisal deadlines, you've got loan contingency deadlines, you got COE, close of escrow. So understanding the process and how it relates to those timelines is essential. Those are the nervous timelines, right? Those are the ones where the clients they're biting their teeth and yelling at you, hopefully not, or coming at you and say, hey, what's going on, what's going on, what's going on? Hopefully it doesn't happen, but understanding it. Understanding the actual steps of the loan from start to finish. Now here, our goal today is really just for you to be comfortable with the steps and know what that word or whatever words you hear, what that means and what that means for the process. Gain a stronger sense of control of the process by knowing that vernacular, that terminology. Because once you know it, you have control of it. Isn't that right? Yeah, the left one. I think that was the Best Buy special. Oops, did I say that out loud?
Right.
Gain a stronger control of the process. Because isn't it true today that if you know something or if you master something, you know that you can control it. You're the master of that universe, so to speak. So today, by knowing and learning, you'll walk away in here with a better control of that whole thing. And by the way, I say this to all, whether you're a seasoned agent or not, you should know this process at some point of your career, if not at the early point of your career. Okay, next. Experiencing full immersion in the lending process. Well, that's what this is going to do for you today. You're gonna have a chance to really get the nitty-gritty or the inside information or questions you always wanted to ask your lender, but you were scared to ask him, or calling me out. Jojo, what is that BS that I heard about this, and this? Tell me about that. Full disclosure here. No, I'm not gonna shy away to any questions. And the bouncing one.
Admit, Nicole,
Oh, it's gonna mess me up. Sorry, just kidding.
admit.
Admit. See, what did I say about realtor time? That's a realtor time. Just kidding, and everybody, just kidding. I don't mean nothing by it. It's gonna get a little humor in the morning. I haven't had my dose of coffee yet. Adding another skill set to your belt. So your skill sets are knowing the real estate business, knowing the escrow business, knowing the title business, knowing some working knowledge of the lending business, knowing how appraisal works, knowing how inspection works. And then eventually you get certifications in the real estate business, additional, whatever that is, expertise, military lender, CRI, investment property specialist, all of that. This is just another tool. I wish I could give you a certification for this thing, because once you get this, man, you're gonna be very well rounded. Okay, any questions on this page? We have a very small number of pages today, so feel free. Good? No questions? Okay.
Not yet.
So the next slide is the steps in the mortgage loan process. Now, there are so many. In my world, I mean, this would be like a 10 to 15 bullet points. But I made it concise for you, and you can actually take this deck and use it for the rest of your career when it comes to opening transactions and working with a lender. This is exactly what happens in a big all-inclusive bullet point. First of all, most other lenders will tell you that it starts in the loan file opening, which I think is a misnomer. Because it really doesn't start there. It started off when you first called your lender, you first called me and you asked about, George, I've got a client that's really wanting to, interested to buy a home. We need to pre-qualify them. What do we do? Well, we'll go over that in steps in a second, but that's up there. Before I actually do the pre-approval, there's a lot of dynamics that happen before you actually hand off the client to me and once you hand off the client to me. And trust me, a lot of that is a continuous building of what? What's the word I'm looking for? Huh?
Relationship.
Jesus, get yourself a free donut over there. You're
There's a donut?
But it is. And by the way, as we go through this whole process, and any other steps you take in the real estate business, it is always about the continuance and the building and strengthening of. Yep. And because having that trust all the way through builds what with the client to you?
Confidence.
Commitment.
That too.
Because if they have commitment to you, right? If they have commitment and then things are going wrong right about here, but because they trust you and they're committed to you, they don't abandon you. Isn't that right? We talked about the puppy earlier. If you're a mean dog owner and you slap your dog a few times during the process of teaching them how to potty train, because they have trust and commitment, they don't leave you. Make sense?
Yeah.
I like to use the puppy. Yeah, your old puppy. Well, no commitment to me, only to that one, but I pay all the bills.
Okay,
Sad story of life.
loves me.
So these are the steps. Client commitment, pre-approval packet. Yes,
What are the things that you should not talk about when you're doing a handoff with a client? And you're on the
so
phone?
can you hold that question? When I get to that section, that's a great one. We had an experience in that recently. Loan file opening, loan processing, loan closing, and then the post close. And another point that you'll see, some lenders will not even touch or tell you about this, or even do this, post close. And there is an important step in the post close, because that determines whether or not they are what kind of client? Return client. And if they give you what? Absolutely correct. The post close is really where you anchor that relationship for life. And actually the post close in your world, that's when you're making sure that they are in your my takeaway from
Watch party?
watch party, your command. I command my life to be successful. Gosh darn it. It's too early for this shit. Oh, sorry. Okay, everybody good with this page? Earmuffs.
I think shit happened.
Yes, no? Gotcha?
Doesn't matter.
Everybody good? Finally leave this page, because now we're gonna get to the nitty gritty. And take lots of notes, guys. Take some keyword notes, because it's not for me, it's for you to remember what the hell I just said. What the heck I just said. Okay, hand off with the client. So I'm gonna start with the highlighted thing. And then I'm gonna go back to Luisa's question, asking the 3 questions in the client interview. So if you've ever had any of my mortgage 101 training, I started off and actually start off every session with the 3 questions. Because this is the exact 3 questions that I would ask. Once you do a conference call or a Zoom call with me and the client right there, I ask, right when I get the green light to get started, I always say, Mr. Client, let me start off with some 3 key questions with you to just make sure that we can still go forward and keep taking a deep dive. Number 1, Mr. Client, do you happen to know what your FICO score is? Because if you've taken my other classes, you've learned that if they have a 700 FICO and above, they are a client now. If they have a 600 FICO or below, they may be a client later, but certainly probably not yet now, because those are the limits of mortgage lending. They want you to have at least 640 and up, to be quite honest. Not that it's not doable, it is very doable, but they pay a price to do so. So at 600, they would pay a higher rate and I'll be a point here and there to get that loan versus at 700, they get the lowest rate, 0 points, nominal fees, all that good stuff. So first question, do you know what your FICO score is? Next is, what is your budget for down payment? If the client says, and I'm being facetious, well, sorry, George, I have, $100 in my checking account. Well, there we have it. It's not that it's not a client now, but they can be a client later, and I'll explain in a minute. If they had a 700 FICO in this example, but they don't have any money in the bank, yes, ma'am.
What if they have 0 in their bank account, but they have down payment assistance?
Well, yes. So I was alluding to and getting to is the down payment assistance program that we will teach it in a different class, but there's 100% financing. As long as they have good FICO scores, high FICO scores, right? So the second question I asked is, what is your budget? They tell us, they say, oh, I have 100,000, I have 20%, I have 0. So at least we know what we are working with. And the last question that I always ask is, Mr. or Mrs. Client or Mr. Client, are you currently employed? Is that important? Yes or no?
Yes.
Of course, but you will learn sometime in another class, not really. Everything's so messed up, it's funny. Because I'll just give you a little taste, there's loans out there called the stated income loan, that they don't care whether you're employed or you have a job. As long as you have a good FICO score, you have 20% down payment, we'll give you a loan. Yeah, back in the 80s, if you've been around like me. Like I was 10 in the 80s when I was doing these loans, but don't worry about it. So everybody good so far? So I asked the 3 questions, right? And that tells us during that, and by the way, when I'm doing this, before I forget, I've learned from best practices from throughout the years of doing it, that the best thing to do, best practice to maintain the trust and continuation of that conversation and the client hanging with you and not falling off in the initial stages is we always do a conference call minimum, but at the best, a Zoom call. And at the prime, person to person. But today, we don't find person to person always readily available, so the next best thing is the Zoom. And if you're watching me now, you can tell I'm animated, and I keep that conversation good in the Zoom call. I'm throwing jokes, I'm keeping it light, but I'm also handing out lots of information to the client so that they say, wow, Jojo and Luisa, they really know what they're talking about. And I can trust them. With me so far? Yes, ma'am.
So when we have our buyers presentation, it's good to have you on conference for them to have any questions. How do we initiate that conversation that, oh, I'm having my lender on a conference call with us so that,
Absolutely correct. That's two questions. First, yes, it's always good. And who does that very good is Pam. Man, that woman's got this thing down to a science. I thought that was smart. Number 2, second, asking, how do you initiate that? So buyer's presentation, you're gonna set the appointment. Mr. Buyer, Mrs. Buyer, so on this day, we're gonna present you, blah, 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 whatever. And whatever your presentation, your content there. And by the way, I'm inviting my lender just to be at the ready in case, and I'm certain that you will probably have questions on that level. So we'll have them there, so we don't have to set up another appointment for you. It's all there. And because we do this, it's best practice to have everybody there at the ready for you, so that when you walk out of that conversation, you are able to make that intelligent decision. Make sense? I'm getting warmed up now, ain't I? Shoot. I went from 40 Mustang to Ferrari. Here we go. And best practice we just talked about. Let me see what else. Reinforcing client commitment to move forward. Okay, we talked about that. Everybody good on those 2 things? There's more. Yep. Okay.
Well, the things that you're not supposed to
Oh,
talk about
thanks.
client.
Heads up. Remember that if you went to any real estate training in your career, if you haven't, you will. It's good to provide information. But do you want to give them all of it? No. You want to get them enough so that they are satisfied. They walked away informed, intelligent about what they're about to undergo. But you don't have to tell them, oh, by the way, if the inspection goes wrong, here's what's going to happen. Well, who are you, Debbie Downer? You want to keep it positive and upbeat. Same in my process. And you will notice if you work with me, I never mention interest rates ever. Ever. What I do mention is payment. Because the payment is a much more impactful number to the client than rate. Because in their mind, they're looking at their car payment, their student loan payments, their groceries, and how much is gonna be my new mortgage payment? And I never talk about rate, I never talk about locking in the rate. I educate people about the interest rate, saying, by the way, Mr. and Ms. Finance, rates fluctuate daily. It depends on what the equities market and the bond market are doing. If you want more information about that and really learn, we can take a separate session and I can teach you. If you really want to. If not, I will give them certain resources if they really want to track the rate. But it moves every day, and I always say, we lock it in if that conversation should prevail, right? So I'm not talking about it initially. If we must talk about it, we lock it in once you have approval on your loan. I keep it at that, as simple as that.
If they lock in a rate and the interest rates drop, can they?
Nope.
um,
Now, I say that again, it's just so funny about my business. I say no, but then there's a yes. There are banks out there because of certain programs, especially any kind of, what was that other program? There was a loan program that I was doing. There are certain exceptions. Some programs will allow it because who is ever funding that program, especially if the government or state funded program, they'll allow it. Because once you do that, you create a loss position for the lender. But when you're a federal government, as we can see with the $44.7 trillion spending budget, who cares? We're not paying for it. The Fed will just print more money. Uh-oh, am I talking trash again? Uh-oh, but yes, but most of the,
Or tax.
or taxes, but most often in conventional loans, no. Okay, clear? See what else I got in store for you today? Oh, I already talked about that, in person, via email, via Zoom or conference call. Good, I am ahead of myself today. Oh, the follow-up, here we go. The follow-up, reminds me of that commercial when these business owners are gonna open up a bakery and they both chime in and say, "La Chucky." Nobody ever seen that one, huh? Whatever. Anyways, the follow-up is the most important piece in this deck, in this page. Because once we go through the first three, and we did a darn good job. Because during this process, after this process, I should say, I'm gonna ask the client for their documentation. And it's not a small detail. It's pay stub, bank statement, tax returns for 2 years, an authorization form to pull a credit, a questionnaire to get their background information about their job history and their residential history and their social security. It's extensive. On average, a client will probably spend a minimum one to 2 hours digging up that information if it's not readily handy. And what do we know about clients? Just like realtor time, they're not always ready. They have to dig it up. So the follow-up becomes the essential piece out of all this. Because if you do a great job, in the first 3 or 4 bullet points, if you don't do a good follow-up, what happens to the client?
They fall off.
Exactly, fall off. Ooh, the Chucky, there it is.
What channel are you watching?
No idea. What good guys.
So if you have, here we go, take away from this weekend. If you have the command, you'll be putting this client's email in the command. And by the way, in my process of documentation that I'm asking for, and in the initial interview, I make sure I walk away with 2 minimums, their cell phone numbers and their email addresses. Because with that, you can do wonders, can you not? So if you had done that same thing, you have both information when you go to your command and you input them, boom, now they are part of your, not the Chucky, the database, exactly. And what is your main goal as a real estate agent?
Gently,
Huh?
gently.
Yeah, exactly. Not the Chucky, lead generation. And so every time you get an email and a phone number, whoever that is, you got a two piece away. You have a new person to add to your database. And guess what I'm doing? I have a database that I use today right about now. I have about 8,800 people in there that I've personally contacted or dealt with in my past. But I will put them on there as well because I want to make sure that we are in their faces as they're gathering the documents so that they do not fall off and get disinterested. Right? And you should be doing the same. And in addition, I will actually send once a week email or once a week text message to the client all the way through until I get all their documents. Now, why is that important? Once I get the documents, what happens? Once I get all of it and I pull the credit, what happens?
They get pre-approved.
Yeah, that's the end result, but what really happens to the clients?
Now they're locked in, like they're committed.
There it is. Man, I wish I had a cookie for you. Yes, exactly, because now they are committed. You have pulled them out of the market of looking for other agents. Because guess what? They're not gonna go through that hell again for another real estate agent and another lender. Even if they wanted to, they say, you know what? Jojo, Luisa, Jojo talks a lot of crap, but I like Luisa, we'll stay with him. He already has all my documents. I'm not gonna do that again. Does that make sense? Believe it or not, it's very true. You read any sales book. Once you gather all that information about a client and you had them make them do that work for an hour, 2 hours, whatever that is, sign all those forms, pull that credit. Are they gonna want their credit pulled again? Hell no. Right? So they're in. This is the reason why this is so important in the beginning, because once we have that, even if they don't buy now and they wait 2-3 months from now, guess who they're gonna come back to first? Let's call Jojo. I don't want my credit pulled again. They already have all our information. Now we're ready. Or our hearts are in it. Who? If your heart, Atlantic Star, if your heart isn't in it,
Oh my goodness.
holy. We're rocking and rolling
So-
now.
That's why it's very important, guys, like when you guys do your buyer's presentation, to have it in person. Because if you have your lender there, he's gonna have them sign where they have to run their credit, right? So once they sign that, then you know for sure they're gonna sign your BRBC. No question
Oh.
about it.
Good. Yeah, let me talk about that. That's a great thing that she just mentioned. There's one person who will name nameless, Pam. That when she sends out my documents, my forms actually on DocuSign. And right behind or in front of it is her buyer's agreement. You're the devil.
Yeah, but you guys need to be careful with the new BRBC though, doing that. Because the new BRBC is totally different from the old BRBC. It's not, remember, so the BRBC now states that the buyer is paying your commission.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't want you guys
Yeah.
doing that whole like secret, like, here you go, sign it. No, you guys need to disclose that because you don't want to get in trouble with your buyer. Because what they're signing is that they are paying your commission. Okay, so you just need to just be upfront, do it, do the actual handoff in person and have them sign. Just watch. I usually, when I do my buyer presentation, Jojo knows this, I let him do all the talking first. Because like he said, once they're committed with him, then I know for a fact that they're gonna go with me.
That's why they call me the closer.
Well, I don't know about that, but yes.
And by the way, copies for closers. And it's AB.
Wait, Louisa, I have a question.
Yes,
So are buyers, so
Wait.
is that a new thing now? Is
Wait.
that a new thing now? Buyers? I was saying, is that a new thing now where buyers are supposed to be paying our commission?
yes.
Oh, where-
BRBC.
When did
Yes,
that start?
it started January 1st of 2023.
But you gotta.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So basically, Amber, what the BRBC states is that you are asking for either 2.5%, right? So, but the MLS, the listing agent still, or the seller is still going to pay. So that, for instance, on your BRBC saying that you want 2.5% or 3%, whatever commission you want as a buyer's agent. Then on the MLS, if it says 2%, then that means that your buyer will then be paying the difference, the 0.5%. So
Oh.
if the MLS says that it's only 1%, then your buyer then will be paying for the 1.5%.
Got it.
Mhm.
Thank you. And is that at closing? They pay that at closing? Like they write you a check?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's coming from escrow, so it's part of your offer. And then on the offer side, when you guys write the RPA, there's actually a box there that states that your buyer is asking the seller to pay for your commission. But in order for you to do that, you need to have a BRBC sign. Without a BRBC sign, you cannot mark that box. So
Okay,
you
so
guys will just take that
let's
commission.
table that for another conversation. Let's keep
Yeah.
moving, because that's a lot of detail.
Call
Now
me.
you know why it's important to go to all the training sessions. I had a question yesterday about something similar to this, and she's a friend, so I screamed at her, I said, that's why you shouldn't miss my training, duh. I mean, and I can understand the training sucks, but as you can see, we got good ones again, because we're talking about shorties and all. All right, we're gonna go to now we're gonna get to the nitty gritty of this of the content of today's content, so it's gonna get a little technical. So hang in there with me, because it's gonna get a little technical. The pre-approval packet, wait. Am I on the right page?
Yeah, yes.
How come it's not on my thing?
From the back. After your hand up with.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. This one, okay, the pre-approval packet, we're not there yet, there's one more slide, which is this, what is in the pre-approval
Okay.
packet and how long is it good for, what?
The choky.
The Chuki, they right, I'm gonna say.
Oh,
Okay. The pre-approval packet, so once I do my analysis with all my financials that they submitted, there's gonna be 3 product results, 3 work products. One is a letter, an official formal letter saying they are pre-approved for a certain amount of purchase price, the down payment money, their FICO score, and obviously their names and what type of loan they are getting. That's number 1. Number 2, I will give them a redacted copy of their FICO score, meaning their address will not be there, the social security number will not be there, but their 3 FICO scores will be there. You say, Judge, what are the 3 FICO scores? You gotta attend another class, a different class. But there's 3 FICO scores for every client we have. Experian, TransUnion, Equifax. The third document that I'm gonna provide, redacted again, address and account number and what have you, any personal information, is the proof of funds. So you are gonna walk away with 3 documents, FICO score, proof of funds, and a pre-approval letter. And that will strengthen any offer you will make, because it will show the listing agents that this client has been reviewed for a loan, they qualify for a loan, and they actually have the money for down payment, and most important, they can look at their FICO score, because that listing agent, trust me, has gone to a class similar to this to learn about FICO scores. And he knows if it's 700 and above, that they're a pretty good chance that they're a client now, or a buyer now. With me so far? Yeah.
What happens if the listing agent asks for a DU approval? And what is that?
Then they can DU the hell out of here. I'll hand them a Chucky. No. Let's talk about the DU.
Oh, good lord.
So for those of you who've never heard of DU, it's not a toilet. It's called desktop underwriting. It's a system that we use in lending, automated system that we upload all the client's information, all of it. And then I hit enter and it comes back with a result, whether it's approved or not, or it's actually eligible or ineligible. Eligible meaning that they can qualify for the loan based on that data that we uploaded. So you know that if you don't put in good data, you're not gonna get the right now. So you do a good job getting the data, hence our checklist is so long. Because if I have to run the DU, I want to give them accurate data, garbage in, garbage out, remember? So, and then if it's ineligible, which rarely happens, hopefully we did a good job on the pre-approval analysis, then we know that they're probably not going to get the loan, so we're not going to move forward. So at that result, there's a first page that says eligible. I print that copy, because the reason is some listing agents that are really experienced and seasoned will ask you, okay, Jojo, this is nice, the FICO, proof of funds letter, but where's the DU? And there's no DU, I need a DU, because I have multiple offers, I have 4 to 5, and they all have DU, so you better show me that your client also passed the test, the DU test. And that's okay, we don't run it all the time, it's about $75 to $100 each time now, but when it's requested, then I go back. Now, here's the key, 1 second, here's the key. If I don't have good data, because that client was not motivated and committed to give us all their data, especially touch them, I can't run the DU. That's why I insist in the very upfront, please give me all the data. We don't want to miss anything. And for in the back of my head, in case I have to run DU, I am able to do so and satisfy the listing agent's requirement. Yes, sir.
Is the view the difference between pre-qualified and pre-approval? So if you do DU, you're pre-qualified, I'm sorry, they're pre-approved, not pre-qualified.
It's actually the same terminology, pre-qualified, pre-approved. The DU is just an additional step to really solidify your pre-approval. Because it's not something that we do all the time.
So can you do, without having a DU, you can get a pre-approval as well?
That's what I usually do. Because
That's
like I said, it's 75 to 100 bucks. We don't charge the client for it. So we don't do it because the theory behind that is that I or your lender, whoever you're using, did a good job and know what they were doing when they were running the financial analysis. Now, if it's a schmuck, then you got a problem. Or if the guy says, yeah, just show me your pay stubs, I'll give you a pre-approval. Bad move. Bad move. So how long is it good for? It's good, the credit report is good for, let me think here, for 3 months. So it's really good for at least 3 months. And Jojo, what happens after that? Well, don't worry about it. Quite frankly, all I do is re-verify their income and their jobs. And I just issue a new pre-approval letter. I will not run another credit report because there really is no need unless I ask the client, has there been any dramatic changes in your credit history? The answer should be no. And if it's not, then I will rerun a credit report. Yes, sir.
Does that change the interest rates when you run it?
You mean their points or their FICO score? Yes.
Well, also, if you're getting a rate loss rate for interest, right?
If they have an application in process and they've got an approval.
Okay, but if you rerun it 3 months later, does that change?
No, not the FICO. Well, the credit score can affect the rate if the credit score went down. If that's 700, when we lock in the rate and then we rerun it because they bought 2 Ferraris and it would drop down to 600, then we got a problem.
How long is?
Hold on, and by the way, there is a marketing collateral out there that I hand out once we open escrow to all the clients. What not to do when you're in a loan process? Don't open up a Chokey store because you're gonna get messed up financially. Don't do anything. Don't buy a fridge. Don't buy a television. Don't buy a new Infinity, anything like that.
Until you fund.
Until you close. After you close, I don't care. You can buy a freaking Airbnb and a steamship, whatever you want. Go with God. Yes, sir.
Just for information purposes, if they charge, without financing, if they charge a lot of money on their credit card, is that gonna?
Bad thing. When you are basically, guys, if you haven't had a transaction under your belt, when you are in the loan process in the personal side, you basically tell the client, stop what you're doing, pay the electricity, cell phone, food, water, that's it. Oh, obviously, make your minimal payments on your credit card.
Don't change your job.
Don't change jobs, don't move money around. The list that we sent out goes into that in very great detail. And I say to the clients, please make sure you read the piece that says what not to do when you're in your loan process. Because one step, oh, we had a client here when we were still in the office, a great example that we do. Because if today was tomorrow, we were closing escrow, for example, on this client. Today I find out he financed a $20,000 roof. Screwed up my whole approval. I had to scramble. We had to literally scramble in one day to figure out. We fixed it, mind you, but we almost lost the deal because $20,000, that's a $400 payment, affects the debt to income ratio, all affects the rate, all these things go, the price. Then they're gonna find out, they're gonna pull a new credit score, it's gonna drop, blah, 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 blah. So don't do anything like that. Everybody good? What's my next?
One other question.
Yeah.
Hypothetically, if their credit score is in the 700s, maybe 750. If they do something silly like that, is that gonna make a big change in their?
Of course.
It will make a difference.
Of course.
Know that all.
Even a 5-point change in your score can be impactful.
With hypothetical, but thank you.
And so what you will take the documents I give you and that's what you will include in your offer. All right. Professor, good? This is good. This is a good conversation. What about contingency dates? Okay. Let me see what else is in there. What else you did? Is there any? I don't know. Yes,
What if the FICO score was up?
it's no big deal. What, we won't know that, 'cause we won't pull it again. We will pull it, we'll do a soft pull at closing just to make sure they didn't carry any debts, but it's not the whole credit report.
And it
Yeah.
doesn't matter if they locked.
Yeah. Okay, what about contingency date? So this is important. So you've got now inspection, appraisal, and loan contingency, correct? It's typically, I think, appraisal and loan is typically 17 days now,
Yes.
and inspection is how many?
17.
Oh, 17, okay. So hopefully you're working with your trustworthy lender. All my good agents will always call me on these dates if they're gonna change it. And when I say change it, if they're gonna lower it to the below 17 days. 17 days is tough enough for a lot of lenders. Big banks are having challenges meeting the 17-day loan contingency. Just think about it, they're huge. They're processing so much and don't get me started with that. But if you're gonna decrease the contingency dates, please make sure you call your lender and say, hey, can we do 14 days? Can we do 10 days, which is really, really aggressive. So any changes there to decrease, please consult with your lender. Do I need to speak to my loan, MLO is mortgage loan officer on COE dates? Absolutely, because it can go anywhere from 10 days to 45 to 60 days, right? So whatever that number of days, if you're gonna go 45 days and over, you're probably very good. I mean, if a lender can't close in 45 days, they should go into the children business. But if you're gonna go less, 30 days, 25 days, 10 days, 15 days, 20 days, please check with your lender. Because I'm gonna give you a little hint on that. If you want the best rate, if the client wants the best rate, yes. But typically the ones with the best rate takes the longest time. Tell me why. I'm dizzy.
Wait, what's the one?
If the lenders with the lowest rates typically takes the longest time to process a loan, tell me why.
They're underwritten more extensively?
Almost. To give you an analogy, you're going into one of the best hamburger restaurants out there, which is
In-N-Out.
In-N-Out. And you are gonna go because it's good, isn't it? But when you pull up, what do you see?
Line.
Exactly, because they have one of the best burgers. If a bank has the lowest possible rate, what are you gonna see?
A line.
Yep. So my lesson here today is you cannot have a 10-day escrow if you want the lowest rate possible in the market. Be prepared to go 30 to 45 days out. And if you say, George, I'm gonna give him 10 days and I want the lowest rate, I'm gonna say, okay, no problem. Let me introduce you to Mr. Dial Tone. That's a good one, huh? I love that one the best. Does that make sense? Though, obviously, I'm kidding. There's no Mr. Dial Tone introduction, but yeah, it's a balance. So what I typically do is I pick the most competitive rates, but that can deliver on your escrow date. Because what did we say earlier? All of this is BS if you can't close. Right? I mean, the rate is the rate is the rate. If you can't close it, what good is it for you? With me?
Yes.
And I think the last item here, are there any other items from the RPA that can affect the loan? Well, she already brought one up today, which is the buyer's thingamajiggy commission, whatever. Any other things, contingency recovered, COE recovered? Oh,
Appraisal.
appraisal is the same as loan contingency, as long as you don't change the dates. Yeah, if you're gonna decrease the dates, then talk to your lender always. I wanna bring up the release of loan contingency. Because what you're gonna do is you're always gonna call the lender, your lender say, Jojo, can we release the loan contingency? I'm gonna say, well, I don't know, can you? Because I cannot tell you or your client to do that. It's legally incorrect and I can be liable for it. What I can tell you is, okay, we have clear to close, meaning I have satisfied every requirement that the bank has. Therefore, there is 99% good chance we're gonna get the loan. Then you can make a decision. The trigger here is you want to hear the word clear to close. If you don't have clear to close, I always tell my agents, listen, all up to you and the buyer, because there might be an exception to that rule, because you may have negotiated something, I don't know. Because there are instances that you will want to release it, right? If you're negotiating price and money, whatever, but I say, if you don't have my clear to close, I don't have 99% chance yet of getting it. Now, I may also say, I don't have clear to close, but it's really just a, a piece of ID that I need to get, and I'll have it tomorrow morning. But I will always tell you, what are the chances of rain for clear to close, because we're gonna make it rain out here.
So we don't remove loan contingency until we hear clear to close.
That's the general rule, but there's always we learn today, there's always exceptions to the rule. But if I'm gonna give you an exception, I will tell you what that exception is, so you can make intellectual decisions. Intelligent decisions, not intellectual. I need another shot. Coffee, everybody good? That's the most important piece, because the CTC is where you're gonna get all bombarded with all kinds of phone calls from everybody. Escrow, listing agent, client. And then after you take all that heated calls, you're gonna call me, you're gonna be all heated up. And I'm just gonna sit there and listen for a few minutes and play with my air supply music. And then I'm gonna say, okay, here's where you stand on the clear to close. Make sense? Oh, by the way, one more point on the clear to close. From the moment we open escrow and from the moment I open the file, as you can see in a minute, our job, my job, is to get the clear to close. Nothing else matters but to get the clear to close, because that's gonna signal that you can proceed towards close of escrow. Good question. I mean, I'm taking longer than normal. Hopefully you can hang in there. Loan file opening. This is technical, like I said, but I'll try to be very brief and concise. I have gathered a lot of documents already, but now it's all of this now is under me. I'm going to update all loan application and supporting documents if there's been a span of time since we last talked to the client. Basically, I'm going to do everything. I'm going to refresh everything. I'm going to complete the application in the system. We have a processing system we use for all loans. I'm going to upload all the documents in there. And this is from you, I'm gonna send up a copy of your fully executed RPA counters and disclosure. Thank God today that it's all in a computer, because it's clear and legible. I started out this business when it was all handwritten, and I couldn't figure out for the life of me what some of these things were written on there. But today it's very clear, thank goodness, and it's very, very easy to understand and follow and easy to upload. So from you, once you have, the point that I'm making here is, once you have an accepted offer, get the signatures right away, because I cannot open your file without the what? Without the RPA, fully signed RPA. You can say, Jojo, we got an offer, can you open a file now? We only have 20 days. I said, okay, where's the signed RPA? No signed RPA, no file opening. That's the point here. Fully signed, buyer and seller, all the parties. With me? After I've opened the file, I will send out a very detailed but concise email, clear email to all the client, all the buyers, about what's going to happen next, the procedures and all the disclosures that they're going to get from, by the way, everything now is electronic. Oop, let me step back. I'm going to pause for a second. In the beginning, I will always ask your clients, Mr. and Ms. Buyer, do you have access to a computer and a printer and maybe a scanner? Now, if you are working with clients today, and a lot of them do not have access, if you think that you're going to make any offer, do yourself a favor and have that conversation, because everything now is electronic. And if they're not able to upload documents, guess what happens? Either you're going to make a run for it to get it, or you're going to send them to Staples to scan and send it. Like a hint for you, there's an app on the phone called the Scanner. Tell your client, if push comes to shove, please download this app called Scanner, and they can actually scan all their documents in PDF format versus taking a picture. Pictures are not acceptable. But if they use that app, Scanner, it's going to take them a long time, page by page, and that one will work, and it's very clear. So I communicate to the client everything that's gonna happen. I actually have a nice handout for them to see what's gonna happen step by step, so they can follow everything with me. It's called the loan process flyer that I've created in my career, and they can actually see everything that's gonna happen. So that each time a new step develops, I say, take a look at step number 3, we're finishing that today, we're moving to step 4, and the client, oh, perfect. I will also review the terms with the client before they get the disclosures. Because you don't want to get, you don't want them to be surprised or angered to say, oh, I never heard this before. What, Jojo? There's a lifetime prepayment penalty and 4 points to you on the back? What kind of crap is this? Well, I'm gonna say, oh, sorry, Mr. Klein, someone's got to pay for my Maserati. Hello. I will review the terms and all the program very clearly, and I will get acknowledgement from them verbally or by email. Do you have any questions? Are you good to go? But the most important step here, especially with a lot of lenders today, the lender will actually send out a electronic email to them that they have to return, acknowledge, just like a DocuSign, that they authorize receiving the information and documents via email or DocuSign. So I review all of that with them to make sure that they are on board, and that you can check it out. There's been instances when the bank is trying to send them forms, but they never consented. So we wasted 5 days going back and forth. Because forms have timelines and deadlines. If you miss the initial 3-day disclosure period, you gotta restart all over again. By the way, good point. Disclosure 3 days. From the moment they send out, they got 3 days to get them done. Not that you need to know, it's my job, but heads up. And if I haven't already done the DU, like the gentleman asked earlier, this is the time where I would do it. And I'm gonna know day one that we got an eligible loan. And I will communicate to the buyer, Roger, that our goal, all of us, is what I said earlier, to get CTC, clear to close. And I will also educate them the reason, because it's what's needed to release the loan contingency deed, which is the most important date for them. With me so far. I only have a couple pages, so thank God. Anything here? No? Good? Who did that? Oh, I must have done that. All right, we'll go to loan processing. This is when, after I've opened, I've done my share, I hand it off to my processor. And God willing, God bless that I have one that is probably smarter than me, not probably, is smarter than me. Because she will do all of this crap that you see up there, which God knows I don't want to do. So she will verify the information and everything I sent out, all the information I wrote in the application, all the documents that I sent. Make sure they have the right dates, they have the correct dates, they have the current dates, not last year's dates. She will make sure all the pages are there, because remember, in bank statements and tax returns and anything, every page must be included, even if it's blank. Even if it's a blank page, it must be there. If it's missing, the underwriter will stop and say, I'm missing blank page number 8 of 8. Please send it up or I won't finish your underwriting. Because what they're thinking is there could be something in there that they needed to know, which really is blank, but they don't care. They want to see everything accounted for. She's gonna check that he or she will check that the disclosures were sent to the client. Remember that 3 days?
Yeah.
And she will also send out the appraisal order form. By the way, out of pocket from the client in lending always is appraisal fee. They've got to pay for it because they paid directly to the appraiser, not to the banks. After 2008, there was a separation of powers. Appraisers deal directly with the client so that there's no undue influence from the agent, the lender, or the client, or anybody. So they pay them directly. They will get a form electronically to pay for it with a credit card. And we do that right in the first few days. If it's a condo, she will gather the HOA documents, bylaws, budgets, all that other stuff. What else is there? Oh, bond insurance, all of that for a townhouse or a condo, and she will send out a condo certification questionnaire. Well, that's separate training. We won't talk about that today. And then she will verify that the appraisal was ordered and it was confirmed by the appraisal company and it was paid. Now, here's a little secret to you guys. Somebody talked about interest rate locking today. At this point in time, once I know all of those above is happening, I'm actually looking at the interest rates. And I'm looking, I'm looking out there 2, 3, 4 dominoes down, saying to myself, okay, what's the market gonna think, I think it's gonna do? What's going on in the world? Are we about to blow up another $2 balloon with a $500,000 missile? What's going on out there? Because that's gonna affect my bond market and my stock market, therefore my rates, right? Is Chairman Powell feeling itchy again to raise the rates 0.5 point? I don't know, what is going on out there? If all signals are good, based on what I don't have a fortune cookie or a globe, but if everything tells me that it's pretty much stable, or if it's gonna trend up, I'm gonna lock in the rate.
You don't need their consent.
I don't need anybody's consent. The consequence though is if I lock in the wrong rate. Woo! I don't want to have that conversation. I'll be in the Bahamas. But what I will do, actually, what I really do is based on that information, I will call the client and say, Mr. and Mrs. Client, here's what's going on in the market today, in the equities market, and the bond market. They spotted a pink balloon floating over Montana, over the Yellowstone filming, and they're about to shoot it down with $1 million missile this time. And that's going to create a shakeup in the equities market. I think we need to lock. We're going to judge what's rate up, go over that, and they're going to say, okay, sounds good. And a lot of that, by the way, that conversation is gonna happen, and I'm gonna be able to lock it, because what do we do in the very beginning? What do we create with the client?
Trust.
Absolutely correct. They don't know, they're gonna trust me. And if I didn't earn that and I wasn't credible in the very beginning, they're gonna have questions of the gazoo. That means I didn't do a good job. There's a book out there called Trust Selling, you should read it. So, and if that happens and I should lock it, then even better, because now we are secure for the rest of the time. I don't have to worry about it anymore. It's locked in. The file's gonna go to underwriting. I'm gonna get the initial conditional approval from the bank within 24 hours of submission to the underwriter. And that tells me your loan is approved based on a few more items that we need from your client. I work on those with the client very fast. I outline it in an email. I do it verbally. I explain to them why I need it, so that they're okay and motivated to getting it. And I always say to them, I need these documents so I can get your clear to close. And I say to them, because once I have clear to close, even if it's 10 days ahead of schedule, you'd rather have that so that you can decide things at your leisure and you're not under the gun, under the pressure. And I always try to get my clear to close minimum 5 days before COE, if not earlier. Because once I have clear to close, I'm going to move on to the next file. I'm good. And the only thing I'm gonna get, oh, by the way, on the conditional approval, the one thing that's gonna be missing there, which I'm gonna have to wait for, but I did a good job in ordering the appraisal early on, is gonna come any day now, is the appraisal. So once I submit all the items from the conditional approval that I needed from the client, I'm also gonna submit the appraisal, because it's probably there by now, so I did a good job in ordering it early. And that's the reason why I go back to saying, make sure your RPA is assigned, because I need to send out disclosures and I need to order appraisal immediately. You understand? That's why it's so important. Okay, questions here? Okay, so far, coming right along. And now look at that, we're at towards the end. Towards it's the end of the. Okay, I'm gonna pause here for a minute before I get down to this, the nitty gritty. Any questions else that I haven't covered that you always want to ask? No? Secrets of how to get an approval while lying and cheating? No? None of that? Okay. How to forge income tax returns? No? None of that? All right, good. Just definitely go, make sure. Loan closing. So once I get my CTC, guess what? I still have 3 days minimum to get to close the loan. It's not just because I got CTC. That's, oh, by the way, that's the reason why I like to get it 5 days before your COE, because I gotta do all this crap. Right? Number one, process of orders, closing disclosures for client to sign. They've got to sign another set of disclosures. And I've got to wait 3 days after they sign it before I can close. So guess what? What we do is while we are waiting for CTC, and because we know, remember in the other deck that while we are waiting for clear to close, I'm sending out closing disclosures to get in front of it already. Because I have to wait legally 3 days before I can do anything after they sign it. So I'm gonna send that out early for them to review, and I'm gonna call them, I'm gonna email and text them to go over the details, especially if there's any additional information that was done, like what you guys like to do, surprise me with a seller's credit out of nowhere. Oh, yeah, we're gonna sell us credit for the roof that's broken. Oh, my lord, don't ever do that. Seller's credit should always be credit for closing costs. The language, and I need a escrow amendment or some kind of document to say that it's happening. Signed by all parties. Okay, so I'm crossing disclosures. I'm also, once I've got the clear to close, I am now allowed to order loan documents. Here's the funny part about this is the one that always makes me laugh. I order loan documents, it takes me literally same day, once I hit enter, or not me, my loan processor, once she hits enter, the documents by end of day is sent to escrow. I mean, it's literally that fast. But you know what? And know this in the back of your minds, escrow will not actually see it till at least a day after or 2 days after. So what do I do to be proactive? I will send an email once I have confirmation it was sent to the escrow, listing agent, buyer's agent, and you. Hey guys, escrow, loan documents are now in escrow. Escrow hates it. I'm well hated in the escrow community. That is sitting there, because now I put the fire in them, didn't I? It's sitting there. You've got to go look at it, knucklehead. Are there any escrow officers here? No, good.
They're closed today.
Okay, good.
Oh, they hate you already, so.
So anyway, Jack, I will put the fire under the belly saying it's there. I mean, they don't like it, really, quite frankly. I get such negative. Yeah, we're out here getting massages. So I will put I will give them the information so that they will act on it, because if I don't, they will wait a day, maybe 2 days to look at it. And I don't have that luxury of time, especially when my rate lock is ticking, isn't it? And if, well, they don't miss close of escrow, that would be to their demise, but my rate lock, especially if I have a rate lock that's about to expire, I will do everything to get that thing moving. They need at least minimum 24 hours to review that. I've seen that historically with all escrow, sometimes 2 days. Especially if we are facing a weekend, sometimes 3 days. But if we are facing a weekend, I will again, proactive, talk to the client, hey, can you sign Saturday? Yes, we can, Jojo. Oh, docs are in your email, Mr. Escrow, Mrs. Escrow. And by the way, client's okay to sign Saturday, please order a traveling notary. Oh, they hate that. So now the client signs, whether it's a traveling notary or with escrow. Escrow will review it again, and they will do their thing, whatever they did. Oh, is it on there yet? Escrow will generate a very important piece of document, which you should know, write this down. The estimated closing statement. Because that's where the rubber meets the road. That's where you're gonna see all the money, fees, everything. And how much money is left for the borrower to wire to escrow at closing. Because they still have to wire the rest of their down payment, don't they? Or closing costs. Escrow must return a version of the signed document, either original or by PDF scan to the lender, because we still have to scan it to make sure they didn't miss anything or there's nothing, they didn't change anything. Everything is copacetic to the original instructions before the bank will wire the money, and that takes another 24 hours. So upon signing, there's another 24 hours in front. The lender needs to take a look at everything. If you remember back in the day when we were facing 2-3% interest rates a couple of years ago, man, that typical 24 hours was actually 3 to 4 days. Because there was a line of documents to the bank of closing, and we were losing rate locks tomorrow because there was a line of people wanting to close. We send the wire to escrow. Here's the second part you need to know, and I'm going to stop denigrating escrow today only. That once they send the wire, I get notification of it, and I will send an email again to everybody. Loan was funded, it's sitting in your bank, in the title company's bank. Oh, they hate that, because that means now they gotta act, don't they?
Because everyone's aware.
If I don't do that, it could sit there for a day, 2 days. But I won't. Money's in your title account, please prepare to record, which is the next step. Recording a new deed at the county recorder's office. The last and final step that escrow will undertake on behalf of your client. And we'll send out confirmation, it's been recorded, so now what do you get? What do you get from escrow after they record it?
An email.
Huh?
An email.
Well, more importantly, on behalf of the buyer, what do you get? Huh? Your keys. You can't get technically, legally, you can't get keys until it's recorded. You can't ask for keys until it's recorded, until there's confirmation of recording. Some people I've heard, some agents, can we get the keys? Keys to what?
So, yeah.
Questions so far? I have one last page and we're wrapping up. You picking up some nuggets today though? Some good info, even though despite my antics?
Very informative.
Okay, so make sure there's nothing, oh, what is that? I just did that. That's weird. What's it, there's a ghost in this office, evil. Post close, this is what we're talking about earlier, didn't I? What happens with the client post closing, which a lot of lenders, won't do. A lot of loan agents that I know won't do. Now, the really, really good ones, either they'll do it themselves or they'll have a team that do it for them, but it has to be done. There has to be this step. And what is that step? Let's start. I will make sure that the client gets or has read the final closing statement. At closing, but actually do it before. Remember I said estimated? I will actually ask for a copy. This is the hell off out of escrow too. Because I will go line item per line item to make sure that nothing is wrong there. Because guess what? There are always errors. Whether the bank made an error, because we will make an error in the fee, or something was missing, seller's credit. I've seen that missing. Can you imagine trying to undo the loan to get the seller credit? That has happened. That's a catastrophe. Wonder what if we recorded and they forgot the seller's credit altogether? Woo! That's a doozy. I'm definitely in the Bahamas with a 6-pack after that happens. So I will review the final closing statement. Because I will get a copy, my bank will get a copy, and I will also inform the client if there's any money coming back to them to watch out for that, because sometimes they miss that because it comes in a check if it's small. If it's a large amount, it comes in a wire. I will send my checklist. I have a nice little checklist, 1 page of all the things that the client needs to expect in the mail for the next couple of days. A copy of their deed, a copy of their condo documents if they were in a condo, a copy of their final title report to show ownership, a copy of the final statement, which they will need for taxes. And I always tell them, please put this in a safe location, hopefully someplace we won't burn or get lost, because come tax time, you will need all of these items with your tax person, especially the closing statement, the final. And if you have money coming back, keep an eye, because it's gonna come in the mail. And you don't want to go after escrow for a second check if you lost the first one. There will be the final deed recorded coming in the mail. And guess what, guys? A lot of first-time home buyers don't know that it's coming in the mail from the county. And it's a very important document that they need to keep as long as they own that house. The first payment to me, the bank. Every client does not know that. They go, oh, it's good to go. Let's hit the Bahamas. Call Aunt whatever and get a big box of cookies. We're going to the Bahamas. I always tell them in my list and I'm verbally said, please make sure you identify it was in your escrow documents, your first payment letter, because it's going to be due 30 days after closing. And if you default on your first payment, you are in big trouble. First payment default is the worst thing a bank will experience. So I always say, grab your first payment letter. There's a calculation on when that payment is due. That's another class. But I always tell them, please make sure you know when your first payment is due, because you cannot default.
One small question. Don't lenders have like this, they take that amount from their mostly the first payments, so it goes 60 days?
It looks like that, but it's not. It's prepaid interest. There's still a first payment, and it's not 60 days either. It sounds like that. It almost works out to be 45 days, but I stay away from that piece because they get a comfort level saying, oh, I don't have a payment due.
Exactly.
And I say, no, look for your first payment letter. We'll tell you the date. It is typically 30 days or within 30 to 60 days of your closing. But you gotta send that in and you gotta pay attention to that date. And I always tell them to make sure that all the documents, when you sign your escrow documents, they should have given you a stack about 2 inches thick of everything you signed. You should have that, and if you didn't get that, because some traveling notary will not make the copies, they don't wanna pay the 5 cents a copy. They'll sign, take it all back, and the client didn't get nothing. So I tell them, make sure that you get that, and it's escrow's job to send you a signed, copies of the signed documents at their expense. Typically, they'll send it to you via email and PDF it, but okay, whatever, as long as you get it. Oh, that was it. Holy crap. I got done. I'm just over by 15 minutes. With that cookie joke. Any questions? Everybody good? All right, keep it that. This is a great cheat sheet for future use, so keep it in your entourage of documents. Thank you very much. It's Miller time for me.
No questions?
No, this is great. And we're gonna get these slides, right, Louisa?
Yes.
Okay.
But
Cool.
then, I think, you should have gotten it already.
Yeah.
Oh, in my
Yeah,
email?
I put it in the
Traveling
email.
notaries come, the good
If you
ones,
guys don't have it, please email me.
the ones that-
Okay.
Yeah, I should have, gave it to you.
Okay, I'll check my inbox. I probably have it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you guys don't have the presentation, email me so that I can send it to you. Or email Jojo.
Okay, sounds good.
What's your email? Oh, yeah, right there.
So.
His email is right there, so let him know if you guys need it.
Yeah, I got that. Thank you.
What is it?
There you go. Let's cover his face.
You guys are funny.
Thank you all.
No, thank you. Thanks, Jojo.
There's a way to do it.
Everyone.
I want them down, trying to together.
It is, it's just a.
Normally it's.
Yeah, everybody, you got his information?
You wanna call it?
Yeah.
How was it? Okay.
Alright, see you guys later.
What was it? It was good.
I did this morning.